Hello fellow glue sniffers and glue snippers, welcome back to Blitzkrieg Model Works. I'm Bob, you know me as Darkland on the forums. How's it going everybody? So, a little bit of an update with the Tiger 1 group build. I've been plodding along on the turret doing some Zimmerit, getting the tracks all done up using the Friulmodel tracks, the late models for the mid. Waiting for some more photo etch to show up, which it did, so I've got the main sheet. Some of this I won't use, but a good chunk of it I will. And I've also got the fender set that has come in. And the side skirt set with the exhaust shrouds. That should be lots of fun to try to bend. I'm going to, there's side pieces that go kind of inside. These are the side skirts. I'm going to try and solder those on. I just have to go to the electronic shop, get some solder paste. Work with that rather than solid solder and see how that works. And I'm actually going to be using a photo etch bender that I've had sitting like forever and a day. I hardly ever use this thing. I could probably count how many times I've used this on 2 fingers because I'm usually using tweezers and pliers, but there's some really long bends and these have to be bent in one direction on one side and then in another direction on the other side. So I'm going to be using something a little more stable and sturdy. But what I've got done so far is we've got the Zimmerit done on the turret. Now I tried to go for a bit of a messy look, at least on the turret, and the escape hatch on the side. I actually purposely went for a slightly different pattern, a little messier, a little wider. I've seen that on Tigers. Got the track hangers held in place. This took about 2 nights. Most of the stuff is, you know, putting, and I used Tamiya basic putty for this, was putting it on, smearing it, getting it thin enough, then letting it sit so it skins up, and then using a, I used a little micro chisel. And it just sat here and just went dub, 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 dub. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then once I went over where the tracks were, I would take a track and kind of fit it in, line everything up, and kind of mush it into place, which is why in some of the places where I had it a little too thick, it kind of makes marks, but that was the whole point. The matlet is done as well. That's right side up. I'm pretty impressed with that. Got some photo etch on the turret. There's a little ring around the ventilator, and there's a secondary weld bead seam that's in the mids that Tamiya doesn't have on here. Kind of odd for them to miss out something so prominent. This is an ABER set. Apparently that was a limited edition thing. I still see them around on eBay and that. You get 4, they're really long, they're about this long altogether, and you get like 4 of them in the box. Stowage box with the clasps, much nicer than what you get given in the kit. This one was giving me some grief, and that's where it wanted to sit, so I guess that one's damaged. The big thing is the loader's hatch. On the outside of the hatch, there's really nothing new. I just have to put the grab handle on, but it's the inside that got all the work. Now, there's parts from ABER, which are the locking straps, the X straps. There's this little retainer on the side. There's kind of a plate underneath the wheel. You can't even see it, but it's down there. And then the wheel itself is the kit part with some copper wire pulls, and then just a, not even stretch sprue, it was some evergreen piece and just some sheet plastic to make the little locking latch. ABER do give you replacement locks for here, but these actually look a little more to scale than the ABER ones do. The driver's hatch, or no, sorry, not the driver's, commander's hatch, derp. There is like no detail at all from Tamiya, and if it's open, you're gonna see something. Now, I had a real hard time. I got nothing in my reference library to say what's on the inside of this. I've got several pictures of panther ones, but not tigers, and I stumbled across this pic online, and it's not obviously an actual vehicle, but somebody's kit part. So I'm going to use that as my basis and put that on the inside, because this hatch is going to be open, so it is going to be noticeable. Now, one thing I'm going to be replacing that I didn't show you yet is the main gun. This is the Tamiya main gun. This is the Tamiya main gun. Hold on to it. It's a two-piece unit. I didn't bother fixing anything up. This is like as anybody would get it in the box. It's okay. It fits in. There's normally, I took it out, it's bored all the way through, but there's normally like a half circle piece this would like fit into. I'm replacing that with the ABER one, and the ABER one is just insane, because you get a metal gun barrel, and hopefully you can see this, because this is just nuts. It's rifled. That's absolutely stupid. It's actually rifled. Now, it's a multi-piece unit, so there's a locking collar. There's a locking collar for the muzzle brake. And in case you didn't notice before, that's threaded. Yes, it actually threads on. It's like insane. Base portion of the muzzle brake threads on. There is a section that you put in between before you put the outer piece on that gets some PE. And there's the outer part of the muzzle brake. And I've already test fitted all, and it literally, once you get everything kind of lined up, it literally just snaps together. You just have to make sure everything's aligned. And I think that looks a heck of a lot better than the Tamiya one. Especially when you can see rifling and you're going to see all the detailing in that inside. This was made for the Dragon kit, so it had this really goofy spring-loaded thing, I guess Dragon have. The only thing that I had to do to make this work for the Tamiya kit, like I said, I had to drill out and file out that brace that was in there. And then I just had to line up the two barrels to kind of figure out where it's going to sit, because now it'll push like all the way through, so I kind of had to score a line to figure out, okay, this is where it's going to sit. And I know you can't see it, but I can barely make it out. So there, that's how far in it will sit, and everything will line up. It's almost a shame to paint that. That is just nuts. What they can do with the turned metal these days. But that's the update for now. The lower hull I haven't really done anything to. I put on some of the suspension components. It is a fixed suspension. You could make it posable, not workable. But I just decided, you know, I'm going to have it on a road or something. I filled in all the attachment points. This is where these kit fenders go. I didn't put any Zim on, as you can see, because I wanted to wait for the side skirts to come in, because there's all those little squares right by my finger here. Those are like mounting blocks for the fenders, so I have to space those and count those, and then I can put the Zimmerit on. Now, one of the things I wanted to do with the Zimmerit is I wanted to have a slightly different pattern on the lower than the upper. I have seen that. I've actually seen ones where even the mantlet, the sides would have a fairly nice, neat pattern, and around the actual barrel housing was just slop. It almost looks like somebody, you know, instead of these nice little ridges that kind of cove stuff out with a tablespoon or something. I've got some pictures of it. It's really bizarre looking. So I was playing around with different styles of Zimmerit. This is when I was just doing my regular zip, zip, zip. Don't pay attention to that. That's for another project you guys will see later. Just ignore that. And then I'd use some Squadron Green putty. And then on the back here I tried Milliput. And I wasn't very happy with any of them. The green putty works okay, but I really liked using the Tamiya Basic. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use an old set of Zimmerit application tools that, as far as I'm aware, you can't get anymore. I've looked around, and apparently they went the way of the Dodo in the early 2000s. and it's called Zimmerit. So they did two different versions. They did an early and a late war version. I mounted all the pieces on toothpicks. They give you this little cast white metal handle. I suppose they figure you should break it off. So what you get with these, and there's all different kinds of patterning tools in here. You get a long and a short trowel effect. They're the same pattern. They're just, this one's like 4 times the size. This one's 4 times the size. There's kind of a waffle stamp that you see more with Stugs and some Panzer IIIs. And then there's some patterning tools. And that's what I was trying with these, because I've seen that you'll have different, they'll go at different angles, and this is more kind of the look that I'm going for, kind of a messy. Guy who did the hull was a little neater but still in a bit of a rush. I even tried using the new Vallejo's putty, and it stuck really bad. It didn't seem to matter how long I waited. I even tried, just licking my finger and rubbing some spit on there to see if I could get it to not stick, and it would still stick. And this stuff's been on for like a week, and it is still like soft. I am not liking this stuff at all. Whereas everything else is hard as a rock, and if I wanted to do some battle damage, it wouldn't take too much to kind of chip the stuff off if I wanted to. Whereas this stuff, it almost like peels off. It's kind of nasty. So that's going to be the next one, is doing the photo etch for the putting the mounting blocks on for the skirts, and then zimming this, and then zimming the whole rest of it, and trying not to go out of my mind doing things like photo etch periscopes. No, don't worry, I'm not actually going to do this. I'm just going to get the AFE Club ones because they're already clear and tinted. The ABER ones, you don't even get any, there's not even glass in these things. So they look kind of cool. They were good for their time, but there's better stuff out there now. So anyway, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I'll have another update in about a week or so. Talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.